I was just a girl. 18 is far too young to be a bride, too young to say goodbye to the warmth of childhood, to dreams whispered into pillows, to the quiet wonder of growing up slowly. But life didn't ask for my permission. After my mother died, the world seemed to lose its color. My father, lost in grief and loneliness, remarried within a year. Her name was Madeline, a woman of grace in public, but behind closed doors, she was a storm of cold contempt. Her voice was always calm, but her words could bruise deeper than fists. She never looked at me with affection. To her, I was a shadow, a living reminder of a past she wanted buried. And when my father passed away when I was 16, the last shield between me and her cruelty disappeared. From then on, I wasn't a daughter. I was the maid. Each morning, I rose before the sun. I washed clothes with my bare hands in freezing water. I swept every corner of the house until my arms ached. I cooked for her, cleaned after her, and listened to insults spoken in sweet tones. And I stayed quiet. I learned silence like a second skin. Then I turned 18. The day should have been mine, a celebration, a moment of stepping into adulthood with trembling hope. Instead, she sat across from me at the kitchen table, her lips painted red like blood. "You're getting married," she said, her voice devoid of emotion, "to a man of good wealth. You'll never go hungry again." There was no joy in her tone. It was a transaction. One less mouth to feed, one more step toward ridding herself of me. I didn't even know his name until 2 days before the wedding. Raphael. I imagined an old man with a cruel smile. I imagined chains instead of rings. The night before the ceremony, I saw his face for the first time. He wasn't what I expected. He was tall, with storm gray eyes, and a face that didn't give anything away. He looked through me like I was air. The wedding was grand, but empty. I wore white, but I felt like I was walking toward a sentence, not a future. Our wedding night was quiet. The candles flickered. I could still smell the perfume from the guests' embraces. My head spun from the noise, the colors, the expectations. He came into the room, shut the door behind him, and without even greeting me, said, "Take off your clothes." I froze. He wasn't cruel, but his voice was stripped of all warmth, mechanical, distant. I curled up at the edge of the bed. My wedding dress crumpled around me like a cage. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. He watched me for a few moments, then sighed. "I'll sleep on the sofa. But tomorrow, you behave like a wife." The light went off. He lay down, far from me, and I lay wide awake, staring at the ceiling, my heart pounding like a desperate drum. That night, I mourned not just my lost freedom, but I mourned the death of something deeper. A belief that maybe, just maybe, love could still find me one day. The days that followed were quiet. He returned home late, barely acknowledged me, and left early. We shared a house, but not a life. He never raised his voice, never raised a hand. He simply ignored me. I cooked meals that often went untouched. I cleaned a home that never felt like mine. I pressed his clothes with shaking hands. I stayed invisible. One evening while washing the dishes, I dropped a glass. It shattered against the tile, a violent sound in the silence. A sharp piece cut my finger. blood welled up fast. I grabbed a towel, hiding it. Hiding pain was something I had mastered. But Raphael walked in. He paused at the doorway, eyes falling on my hand. "What happened?" he asked, for the first time, sounding human. I looked down. I broke a glass. "I'm sorry." He stepped forward slowly, his eyes softening. He took my hand gently, examined the cut, and then wrapped it in a clean cloth. His hands were warm, careful. "You need to be careful," he said quietly. "Sit. I'll take care of the mess." I sat down. I couldn't breathe. It was such a small thing. A wound, a gesture. But to me, it felt like the first crack in a wall that had sealed me off from the world. The next morning, I found a small box of bandages on the table. Next to it was a bar of chocolate. And a folded note. "For the girl who bleeds in silence." There was no signature. He didn't need one. That evening, it rained. Thunder rolled above the rooftops. The power went out. I lit a few candles and brewed tea, my hands still wrapped in the cloth. He came home soaked, water dripping from his coat. I handed him a towel and a warm cup. "You didn't have to," he murmured. "I wanted to," I replied. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he sat down and began to speak. "My mother was quiet too, always scared. My father used to beat her. I used to hide under the table and count her sobs." He didn't look at me when he said that. "She died when I was 15. My uncle took me in. He said men don't cry. Men don't feel. So I buried my emotions and forgot how to show kindness." My throat tightened. "You're not unkind," I whispered. He gave a bitter smile. "I thought if I married a quiet girl, I wouldn't have to try." I was wrong. You don't deserve to be afraid. From then on, things changed. He started having breakfast with me, asked how I slept. He noticed when I cut my hair and complimented my cooking. He brought me a book, Jane Eyre, because I had once told him I love stories, but never had time to read. He began to knock before entering my room. Always ask before touching anything. He still slept on the sofa. One night, he knocked gently. "May I sit?" I nodded. He sat at the edge of the bed, hands folded. "Are you still afraid of me?" I hesitated. "Not as much," I said honestly. He smiled faintly. "That's something." Eventually, I told him everything. About Madeline, about the things she said, the way she threw away my childhood and sold me like property. He didn't speak. He just listened. When I finished, he said, "Your voice wasn't lost. It was taken. But we'll find it again." When I fell sick with a fever, he stayed by my side. Through the night, through my coughing and tears, at one point I woke up crying. I don't even know why. Maybe the years of silence finally broke. maybe my body couldn't hold it anymore. He pulled me into his arms, not for control, not for power, just to hold me. Later, he came to my room again, but this time, he didn't say, "Take off your clothes." He said, "May I sit with you?" I nodded. "I love you," his voice trembling, "but I will never touch you unless you love me too." I looked at him, truly looked, and the wall inside me crumbled. I reached for his hand. I whispered, "I'm ready." Not out of fear, not out of duty, but from love. That night, I didn't give myself. I chose him. With all the quiet power I had reclaimed. Now, I'm 21. We live in a house with ivy climbing the walls and daffodils in the yard. We bake together on Sundays. We read at night for the fire. I write stories now about girls like me, girls who lost their voices and found them again. He still brings me tea every evening. And sometimes I still cry. But now I cry for different reasons.